Thanks everybody for joining today's manager session on the launch of phase 1 for MyWolf. This is very exciting. We're very excited about launching our new performance management system. This first round will be focused on recognition, feedback, and goals, and I'm really excited to share it with you. Karen is on the line as well as a few other team members. So let's go ahead and dive into some logistics first. So from an agenda perspective, what we're going to talk about is what is MyWolf, why we chose MyWolf, what's in it for you and what's in it for your team. I'm getting creative with that acronym. This is a 3-phase rollout. We'll talk about the timing of that. We'll do a demonstration. I'll walk you through MyWolf, and I'll walk you through each of the pieces of phase 1, which are recognition, feedback, and goals. We'll talk about when to use MyWolf, resources and support that will be available to you, your role and immediate next steps, and then what's next. So just a couple of housekeeping things like we usually do. Certainly just please mute your phone. I didn't mute all on this call, so please make sure you're on mute if you're not talking. This will be about an hour, and so we have a lot to plow through, so we just ask politely, please don't multitask, pretty please. As we're going along, we want to go ahead and get through the material to make sure we get it covered, but we don't want you to forget your questions. So go ahead and chat your questions as we go, and we'll get those answered. We'll also pause at the end for some Q&A and possibly look back at some of the questions that were chatted for the greater group in case there were something we probably want to share with everyone. We, of course, will keep a parking lot if there are items that we can't answer, and we will get back with you very quickly. And then there will be a copy of the presentation and a recording of this presentation, of this session, that I will email out to managers. We aren't putting the manager training in content. That will just be emailed directly to you. So as we get started, I'm going to hand it off to Karen to talk a little bit about what is MyWolf.
Thanks, Jen, and thank you again, everybody, for taking your time out of your busy day to learn more about this new platform called MyWolf. And we're really excited to be rolling it out. It is live in the system, and the MyWolf is Work.com app that's been branded for Blue Wolf's culture, and it's an app that we've discovered is aligned perfectly what we're looking for in our new performance management platform. Specifically, what we loved about it is, as we are a social organization, and this tool and the tools within MyWolf provide us with a social performance management platform, unlike what we used to have with Sonar 6. So, in fact, this is the performance tool that will replace Sonar 6. I'll pause for applause, but we'll continue on. Anyway, MyWolf is integrated into Blue Wolf Salesforce platform, making it super easy to make these connections between and recognizing these extraordinary things that you do in your daily work life. Its ability to help you make the connections between wins, learns, and changes and feedback for your managers and your peers and your team members, all around what we do for deliverables for our customers as well as internal. The third thing it'll allow us to do is it allows us to track the personal and career goals you are focused on accomplishing. And incidentally, it also connects you with your team's goals as well as our corporate goals. So it helps build alignment around what you want out of Blue Wolf and what Blue Wolf would like out of us. Also, MyWolf was designed to fit right in with how you're used to navigating in Salesforce today, to make it really easy for you to find what you need and to add or review a wide range of information. And it's all about you, and it's all in one place. And currently that app is MyWolf. Jen, can you go to the next slide? Thanks. So we just covered a little bit about why behind the MyWolf, but we also wanted to share that we are aligning major initiatives like this one with our organization's vision and plan on a page. As many of you can recall, and we'll hear later in the week on the all-hands call, one of the must-dos on the plan on the page is to create an extraordinary employee experience. And MyWolf narrows that down even further. To create an extraordinary professional development experience through MyWolf, we're able to provide the PAC with tools to enable us to thrive personally and professionally. It provides transparency and a more holistic view for our employees. It's a platform that we can use for coaching moments, to coach and guide and build our skill sets, our career goals, an employee's personal brand, and so much more. This is the form it also takes so many different angles. A manager to an employee, a manager to a team, an employee to employee. This platform is built for you and allows us visibility. It allows us to create powerful real-time mechanisms for feedback org-wide that if you can or if you want can be a huge contribution to your career growth. You're able to reward and recognize each other in meaningful ways. Why does this actually matter? Work.com completely changes this typical performance review by encouraging transparency that normally doesn't exist in the previous reviews we've done. It fosters openness through the social aspect of the platform that allows coworkers to publicly acclaim the good work of others, a clear definition of individuals, company-wide goals, and metrics provided for clear accountability. So this is our opportunity to daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly recognize the way that we perform, both internally and client-facing, and capturing those moments. So I'm super excited that you guys are here. I'm going to pass it back over to Jen so that you can learn how easy this tool is and how powerful it is.
Thanks, Karen. So we're going to do a demonstration of the system, but before we do that, I just want to share a little bit about what's in it for you and what's in it for your team. So first and foremost, it really does bring out total transparency in the review process, and that's with your manager and with your employees as managers. And it's real time, and now it's objective. So you can have more effective conversations and coaching moments in response to the feedback and recognition that you see your employees are receiving. The coaching moments we know will strengthen relationships between not only you and your manager, but you and your team, and also between employees, from employee to employee. The feedback piece of that opens up those opportunities to coach, and we know that whenever you strengthen those relationships, it brings out employee engagement, and so this is a really great aid to employee engagement. Also, the transparency piece of that is tying your team's performance and individual performances back to reports that are in Salesforce, if applicable, to measure progress. So it's very cool. Another what's in it for you and your team is that you guys can celebrate together, right? You and your teammates are recognized, will be recognized for the extraordinary work that you guys do day in and day out. And it's all public. So everybody sees these accolades about you and your team on Chatter. We'll talk more about that in a second. Also, there's an ability to clearly understand and define goals and measure them easier. So you can set team goals in MyWolf, and you can use the features of the tool during team or community calls, for instance, to assess progress toward goals. You can also link company goals to know how you and your team are making a direct impact on corporate goals, as Karen mentioned a minute ago. This can help you prep for one-on-ones with your own manager. It can also help you prep, and with your employees. It also helps you prep for mid- and end-year performance reviews, too. And then finally, there's a huge value in feedback, right? There's extremely valuable feedback about receiving feedback, and that's in real time, and we're doing this now through this tool like we never have before. It's also an ability to provide valuable feedback, again, in real time, not only about you, but with your employees too, and anyone in the PAC. Feedback is really big for Blue Wolf. This tool will help us ingrain the gift of feedback into the Blue Wolf culture. We're going to talk a little bit more about this during the demo. So it's a 3-phase rollout, and we're in the midst of phase 1, which is recognition, feedback, and goals. The other 2 components that we're rolling out as part of MyWolf will be phase 2 and 3rd quarter is performance, and then phase 3 in the 4th quarter will be all about coaching, and that's where our new mentorship program will be housed. So more on that to come. Let's go ahead and dive into the system. I can't wait to get your insight on that. And let me see if I can just get to the right one. There we go. Okay, so I'm in the sandbox, and want to point out to you that the way to access MyWolf is in it's a link in the pick list of apps in the top right corner of any of our orgs. I'm already there, and so all you need to do is drop down the app menu and select it. I want you to make note that there are tabs just like we have in all of our other orgs in the top navigation bar. And as we kind of go through what's all a part of MyWolf, I want to point out to you that this is editable, so you can change your navigation bar here just like you can in any other org. Let me see if I still have that open. So if I go to Blue Track, for instance, I'm sorry. There we go, Sandbox. I did this in Blue Track. So like if I pop over to Blue Track, the profile and recognition and feedback and goals tabs that we're going to talk about today, I went ahead and added them up here to my top navigation bar over in Blue Track. So it fully integrates with Salesforce to make this as easy as possible. So I'll pop back over to MyWolf app just to kind of walk you through it. But we just wanted to point that out, that you can customize it for your convenience. So once you're in the MyWolf app, you default to your profile view. So the profile tab is selected, and it looks familiar because it's your chatter profile. The difference here is there are some sub-tabs that are a part of MyWolf. The feed, overview, and employee phone book tabs that you see here, those aren't part of the MyWolf app. They're actually part of Salesforce, but they are here when you want and need them. Actually, you'll notice too, up in the top, in the navigation bar on the far left, our home tab is also accessible from here. So it just makes it really easy to navigate. So the 3 tabs we're going to talk about are recognition, feedback, and goals. The recognition tab, I just want to cover quickly and let you know that you'll see that there's a recognition sub-tab here on the profile view, but there's also a recognition tab in the navigation bar at the top. So in the case of recognition, these actually look and do different things. So functionality and look is different between these 2 tabs. For feedback and goals, there's similarities, similar look and similar functionality in both, so not quite so drastic of a difference. And for goals, they're exactly the same. Whether you're in the goals sub-tab or in the goals tab in the top navigation bar, it's the same. And I'll point that out again as we go through, just so you know. So let's start with recognition. This is like a party at Blue Wolf. This is where everybody recognizes everybody. We're pretty good at that today. We like to give each other compliments and show our appreciation for each other, and this is just a streamlined way to do that all in one place. So the first thing that you'll want to know about recognition is that it is 100% all public in Chatter. So anybody at Blue Wolf can see the recognition that you give to another PAC member. We give recognition by way of what we call badges. We'll review those in just a second. But all badges that you give out and receive, again, are viewed by everyone in the company on Chatter. And as managers, I do want to point out that you can, this is a great tab to go to whenever maybe you're doing a one-on-one or a performance review with one of your employees, because that's one of the first things you can do is start talking about the fun stuff. Start talking about the recognition and the accolades that they're receiving. Because they report to you, you can go straight to their profile, for instance, in MyWolf, click on this sub-tab, and you can see a list of all of their recognition. And you can celebrate that together. So from the recognition sub-tab, you get a list view. And I'm going to just drop that down here to show you. There's a few options. There's recognition received and recognition given. So right now I'm in the view of looking at the recognition that I've received. And you can see that in this test environment I have one badge from Carrie that she has given me. And if you click on the badge that was received or even given, it gives you the details about that, right? So I'm going to click on this badge and just point out. In a second, it's thinking it through. There we go. You can see that it was, you can actually see some details about how the badge was created, which isn't necessarily something that you may be interested in. Oops, this actually took me to the badge. Let me go back to this again. I beg your pardon. There we go. Now it's going to open it. Okay, there. So when you click on the badge that you were given, it takes you to the chatter feed where it posted. That's all. It's just a simple, I wanted you to know where that took you. So I want to talk next about how you can give out a badge from this recognition sub-tab. And the short answer is you can't. But there is an easier way to do it, and we've set it up that way on purpose. So if I go back to the feed view, the feed tab, sub-tab, let me go to all updates. There we go. And you see the normal, what you're used to normally seeing where you can actually post a chatter. There's a new link at the top. You may have noticed this in production in Salesforce today. This is the way that you can recognize one person really quickly. So if you click on the thanks link, it will open up. First, you enter who do you want to thank, and you can enter one person's name. You can also, you'll want to definitely type your detailed message here, because if you don't, what shows up in the chatter feed are these exact words. Type your thanks message here. So you'll want to make sure that you specify why you're recognizing that person. And then also you can choose from whatever badge that you think is most appropriate. There are multiple badges, and we're going to go through those here in just a second, but I just want to show you that you can click here and change the badge, and this shows you a snapshot of the badge library of all of the badges that you have access to give out. We'll go through those in just a second, one by one. So I want to point out that when you're entering somebody's name, you don't need to use the @ sign. You only need to just start typing their name. So like for instance, if I start typing Carrie, it automatically finds Carrie where I can select her. And you can see here that it doesn't give me the option to add anybody else. So it's that easy. For one person, to recognize one person, it's actually done from the chatter, from like if you were about to post a chatter, and you would click on the thanks link and submit a recognition, a badge to someone. Now, if you're on the recognition tab up in the top navigation bar, when you click on that, it takes you directly to the badge library. These are all of the badges that you will have access to give to a fellow PAC member. So I'm just going to show you each of them really quick. They each have their own name and tagline. These were the most commonly used badges for recognition that the team came up with. So let me just show you each of these really quick. This one is called All About Execution, and the tagline on this is flawless delivery. You nailed it. The Extraordinary Customer badge is all about that extraordinary customer moment. So tagline, great job creating a moment the customer will never forget. The Team Player badge, the tagline is, success is a team sport, thanks for playing. There's also a thank you badge, thank you for going above and beyond. And then there's the You're a Rock Star badge, great job, you rocked it. So those are the badges that you have to choose from. But I want to let you know that we have appointed badge administrators for each of our communities at Blue Wolf. So if you think of a badge that might be fun or needed or helpful for Blue Wolf or for your community, you're going to work through your badge administrator to make that recommendation and to share that idea. And we'll provide a list of badge administrators in the MyWolf tip sheet that we'll post in content later today, actually. So there are some badges that you'll receive that aren't in this library, and that's because there are certain badge administrators that have been assigned to specific badges to be able to give those out. Here's a good example, Salesforce certifications. The badge administrator for Salesforce certifications is Raja Marzouk, and she's on the Global Talent Management team, and she distributes those as they are earned. So those will only be visible to Raj to be able to give out to folks as they achieve their certification. Another example is we have a badge that's created for PAC Gives Back, which is a program run by Carrie Fugit, and she will be the only one who can hand out that badge as it's earned. So from the recognition tab, to give a badge to someone, you can click on the badge that is most appropriate and simply follow the steps. So I'll click on Thanks, show you what this looks like, and you can see there's a Give Badge button that you click. And in this scenario, when you're submitting a badge to someone through the Recognition tab in the top nav bar, this actually gives you the ability to recognize 5 people at a time. An example of this might be, let's say there's a swarm, right, and there are 4 people that attend a swarm, and the client advisor wants to say, thank you so much, this was great, I really appreciate your contributions in making time for this. They can give that to all 4 people who attended that swarm through this way of recognizing. So you just want to, again, make sure that you just type in the names, you don't need the @ sign, and then make sure that you type your message here. And I'll just show you an example so you can see what it looks like. So there's Carrie, there's Karen, and Raja. So that just kind of gives you that. And you can remove them if you've typed a name by accident. And then make sure, again, you type your message. Otherwise, this is what shows up on the chatter feed. And then when you're done, you just click Share. It's that easy. There are best practices around badging. And so just to kind of share a little bit of that with you, when you want to recognize someone, I recommend giving them a badge immediately, like as soon as you can, to capture it in the moment so it's fresh and top of mind. Be careful to recognize and give a badge of significance. So, for instance, you might not badge someone for attending a meeting or a conference call, but you might badge them if the call took way longer than usual or if they made a really big difference in the call because of their contribution. Another example, you might not badge somebody for getting a deliverable to a client, but you might badge them if they provided a deliverable in an extreme circumstance and it really impressed the client. So just some thoughts around how to badge and when to badge. I'm going to move on I'm going to go back to the profile, and we're going to talk about feedback next. So if I click on the sub-tab in the profile view, it gives you, at a glance, all of the feedback that's associated with you. You can also see up here, there's an option to request or offer a feedback. There's a feedback button. I'll show you how to do that in just a second. So the feedback view, the difference between this feedback sub-tab and the feedback tab up in the top navigation bar is that the feedback in the top navigation bar will give you a list view. So what I want to point out from this sub-tab, your basic view is the feedback that you've received and the feedback button. Also, you can see, for instance, that Carrie offered me unsolicited feedback, and I have some action items here. I can click on it to look at what she shared with me. I'm going to go back to my list view. Wrong one. I want to stay in the sub-tab for now. There we go. There's also, you can see there's a column called Actions, and if you drop it down, this is just to simply give you the option to view or share feedback, for instance. So this was offered feedback. I hate when that happens. Sorry. There we go. I'm click happy today. You can see that the top one is feedback that was unsolicited, and then the bottom one was feedback I actually requested from someone. So those action items become, it changes to, you can also share it. So I have the option of sharing this, for instance, with my manager, or maybe I want to share it with my mentor. So I'm going to go ahead and jump up to the feedback tab in the top navigation bar so you can see the difference. The only difference at this point here is you can see that there's a list view. And right now it's defaulting to the first item in the list view, which is it's only showing me new requests. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up and show you what everything is. So in the top part where it's action required, new requests are the latest requests that you have received from another person to provide feedback. Note also, I'm going to go ahead and stay on this, that there's an actions drop-down for this as well. You can choose to decline the feedback that was offered to you. The new replies is, I don't have any, so I'm not going to click on it, but this would be the latest replies to your requests for feedback. So in one list view, you can see the replies that folks have made when you've requested feedback from them. These will also have a drop-down menu, again, as I pointed out a minute ago, to give you the opportunity to share that feedback with somebody else if you choose. The bottom half of this list view, yes.
Hey, Jen, just to note, if you request feedback from another person, it's going to show up in this list of new requests, as well as an email will be sent out automatically. So, for instance, if I request Vera's feedback, she'll get an email saying, Karen requested your feedback. It'll list out what I'm asking about, and a link back into the feedback loop.
Can I request feedback about myself and someone else?
You can request, we'll talk about the feedback, but I'm just, yes, the types of feedback that you can request. But when you do request feedback, it'll sit, if you have feedback waiting, that you're supposed to be giving feedback on someone, it'll sit in this queue called new request. Okay? You'll get an email if you disregard that email, or if you remember, or if you come back to work to MyWolf, you'll see all the people who you're supposed to be providing feedback on. Okay. All right? Thanks, Jen.
Sure. Thanks, Karen. Overall, feedback is all private unless you choose to share it. And there's another nuance to that as well when you're offering unsolicited feedback and how you share that, which we'll talk about. But just wanted to kind of make known that on the recognition side, it's all public. But on the feedback side, it's all private unless you choose to share it with another person. So on this bottom list for view feedback about, you can sort your list view by feedback that's about yourself. You can also sort feedback about your team. You can sort feedback about other individuals and topics. So I'm going to go through I'm sorry, one second. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's pop over to and create a feedback so I can show you kind of what this looks like as we go. So if you click on the feedback plus feedback button, it gives you the option to either request feedback or offer feedback. So in this scenario, we'll work on requesting feedback. So the first thing you're going to want to do is start typing the name of the person that you are requesting feedback from. Again, you don't need the @ sign. You can just start typing that person's name and select them in the list view. I also want to point out from when you're requesting feedback, you can request feedback from multiple people. So I might select feedback from both Carrie and Karen in one fell swoop, for instance. The next thing you're going to want to do is identify what is the feedback about. Is it about yourself, a person, or a topic? So if it's yourself, for example, you might ask, I would love to get feedback about how I ran the BPR session with our client today. If it's a person, there's a couple of examples I want to give you. If you're requesting feedback about somebody on your team, an example of that might be, to the PM, for instance, and say, on a project, and say, what has been your experience and observation working with Betty on the ABC project so far? There are circumstances where you might want to request feedback about somebody who's not on your team. So, for instance, an example of that might be, I would like your feedback about Betty's expertise about Service Cloud. So it's just gathering information. And then there's feedback about a topic. And to a name, it is about a specific topic. And there are a couple of examples. You could, like for instance, an example might be, can you give me feedback about your experience working on a Service Cloud project? I'm going to go ahead and click on topic for now just to show you that there's an additional piece to this that is not a part of the feedback about yourself or about another person. And it is, you can opt to include a 5-star rating in this request. So the example that they have there is a great example. On a scale of 1 to 5, how was the sales demo? Another one might be, on a scale of 1 to 5, how was your experience at Dreamforce this year? And then, of course, you provide all of the details about exactly what you want feedback on, whether it's a person, a topic, or yourself.
Hey, Jen, can I just add something to that?
Hi.
Sure. So requesting feedback is probably going to be our easiest way of approaching the first time we're going to be giving feedback to one another. So being open to receiving feedback is key and easily indicated if you're requesting feedback from someone. So they realize that you're open to getting the constructive feedback or hearing how they were performing and becoming more aware of that. One of the cool things you can ask about myself or about a team, since we have a lot of matrix reporting going on in our services organization as well as in sales, it's a great way to understand how other people are performing outside of your view. And then around a topic, it could be something as like, what did you think about the marketing event? Or how did you think our BPR session went on a scale from 1 to 5? One of the cool things about requesting feedback, you can proactively do that before you engage in the topic that we're going to talk about so that the people are aware. They know and they're actually going to be watching. Versus asking someone later on, hey, how did I do? Well, you did good. They weren't thinking about it. They were engaged in your topic. Whereas if you say, I'm going to be talking on the all hands, I would like some feedback. And then you ask those people, and then you perform, they're more willing to give you information, and they were probably more consciously aware of your performance at that point.
So Karen, could this be used to facilitate wins, learns, changes
Exactly.
after a project?
This would be a fabulous way to do your personal wins, learns, and changes, or around wins, learns, and changes around the project or around the deliverable with the project team listed up top.
For the stuff like topics, is this going to go back into Blue Track projects? Like, can you associate it to a project so that at the end of the project you can see all the wins, learns, changes?
At this time, no, it's not. It could be a report that we can connect to it, but unfortunately this is on the platform but not completely integrated into the platform yet.
Yes.
No, it's not even open. Yeah. All right, back to you, Jen.
Thanks, Karen. One more thing before we leave requesting feedback. It's important to point out that when you're requesting feedback from multiple people about the same thing, when one of those folks responds, that's private. Not everyone in that list sees their response. So let's talk about offering feedback. So I'm going to click on the feedback button again, and this time I'm going to click on offer feedback. This is actually to just one person. This isn't offering to multiple people. So if I'm going to offer feedback to Karen, I'll put her name in. Again, don't need the @ sign. You can just start typing. And then you'll notice that it starts to pre-fill the next section, which is you need to determine who should see this. So if you want to keep it private, if I wanted to keep it private between Karen and I only, I would send it to just Karen. But if I wanted to share it with just Karen's manager and not Karen, I have that option. Or I have the option to share it with both Karen and Karen's manager. Once you've made the appropriate selection, you enter the details and then click Offer Feedback. before we leave the feedback topic, I do want to just kind of talk a little bit. I mentioned this earlier about, feedback is going to be is really big for our company. In fact, we're scheduling a session for managers and for employees for the last 2 weeks in June, and it's going to teach all about feedback and Blue Wolf expectations. So not the functionality in MyWolf, but rather the concepts around feedback. We'll talk about things like requesting feedback, like asking for constructive feedback that you can grow from, or not being afraid to ask for specifics so that you clearly understand what you can do to maybe improve. We'll also talk about providing feedback, things like providing feedback of behavior that you actually observed that wasn't hearsay. That's just as an example. And then we'll also talk about receiving feedback, because almost everybody struggles with receiving feedback. So we'll talk a little bit about ways for you to respond to that. And so it's a wealth of information. It's going to be about a 45-minute session, but I think you'll find it highly valuable, and it's going to be really important, especially for managers, because we need you to be ambassadors of feedback. We need you to live as examples of how to give, receive, and respond to feedback. So that's my 2-second commercial on feedback. Let's move on to goals. I'm going to go back to the profile, and I'm going to click on the goals subtab. And if you remember from earlier, I mentioned that the subtab view looks exactly like the navigation bar view. So I'm going to just go ahead and click on the goals in the navigation bar tab and show you it's the same. So there's a list view here that you can look at, and it provides you with, you can look at your own goals, which is what it defaults to. You can look at key company goals. You can look at goals that you're committed to. So if someone has invited you to participate in a goal and you say, yes, I'm on board, then the list of all of those that you've committed to will show up in that list view. The action required is if someone has invited you to participate in a goal, it will show up in the action required list view because you need to respond, whether you're going to accept it or decline it. And then in the last one, it will show you a look back at all of the goals that you've declined to participate in. And it's just for a reference in case you ever need to kind of look back and see, well, maybe I really did want to be a part of that goal. And just to show you an example, if I click on key company goals, the 4 must-dos of the organization appear here. So let's go ahead and create a goal. I'm going to click on the Create Goal button. And the first thing you're requested to put in is the name of the goal. So I'll just put in here Phase 1 MyWolf launch. And we'll say it was due today, even though it was due yesterday. It went live yesterday. And then you fill in the description. And then you have the option of marking this as a private goal down here at the bottom. And so I want to take a second about this piece about creating goals in MyWolf. We are going to be asking all of you, everyone in the company, to transfer your EEP goals that you've already finished, put those in MyWolf. We need you to go into EEP and pull them over yourself one by one into MyWolf. And the reason I bring that up too is because an EEP goal might be related to the role that you're in today, and so that might be applicable for you to share that publicly. But if you want the goal to be private, like maybe it's an EEP goal that gets you one step closer to becoming a role that you aspire to be somewhere else in the organization, but it's not necessarily attributed to your role now. You can mark it as private if that's not something that you want to share with everyone. Otherwise, your goals do show up in chatter feeds. So as you're adding goals, it will show up in your chatter feed. And anyone following you, unless you mark it private, anybody following you will see the goals that you're adding. So once you're done with that, I'm not going to make this private. I click Save, and just really quickly, you can associate an image with your goal. You can choose your own if you want, or one of these fun little images. If you don't choose one, it will default to the flag. Not major, but there you go. So once you're done, I should have saved that. Shoot. Sorry. Okay, now, save. And it will take you to the goal record. So in the goal record, I want to show you all the different pieces and parts to this. So we're first going to start here at alignment. I can align my goal to another goal. Maybe it's a team goal or a company goal. So I want to align mine with one of our corporate goals. So I'm going to click on the plus sign. And when you align a goal, the first question it asks you is, whose goal do you want to align with? So if it was for my boss, I could start typing Karen Freed, and I could select Karen. We're in the sandbox, so unfortunately she doesn't have any goals in the sandbox. But if she did, I would get a pick list of goals to choose from. But I want to align with a corporate goal. And so the way that you do that is by typing in Blue Wolf Corporate. And selecting that, and you'll see that the next section is ready for you to pick which goal you want to align to. So mine is going to align with create an extraordinary employee experience. And then I click Done. You can also invite people to this goal, and this is where you do it. So as a manager, if you are if you're creating a team goal and you want to invite your team to participate in that, this is how you do it. You would click on Invite, and then you would add a person. So I'm going to add Carrie LaRoche to my goal. I put in her name. I click Add. It shows me that I've invited Carrie, and I click Close. Now Carrie's receiving an email right now that says, I'm inviting you to participate in this goal with me. The final section I want to point out is not the final section, but the final metric. It's the metric that you can attribute to the goal. So if you click on the Add Metric button, it actually drops down the contents that you would need to complete. So you want to name your metric. So I might want to call this, I'm just going to make this up, frequency of feedback, right? I really care about, from an adoption perspective, if folks are using the feedback piece. So once I type that in, then I have the option of figuring out what type of metric it is. So for me, I can measure my progress as a percentage. These are the options that you get to choose from. You can measure your progress by tracking actual versus targeted, or you can measure the achievement based on its completion. For this, I'm going to say measure progress as actual versus targeted. And then I would complete the target information and the due date, and I can also link this to a report in Salesforce that will help me track my progress. And then I would click Save. I'm going to cancel at this point. You'll notice that there are tabs at the top of the goal record. The Feed tab is the chatter feed for the record. The details we've just reviewed. And then there's the Activities tab. So you can see here it's got New Task, New Event. These are tasks and events in Salesforce. So as a manager, if you have an employee who's maybe a little slow going on a particular goal, you can come to this tab and view the tasks and events that they are associating with this particular goal. And if there isn't any, you can set that as a next thing to do. And especially at a one-on-one level. So if you're having a one-on-one with an employee and you realize they're struggling with this goal, you can coach them to create tasks and events to help them get a little bit quicker in their progress through achieving the goal. And then the next time you come back for a one-on-one, you can come back to the same activities on this record, and you can see what they've been doing. And you can also compare that to their progress on the goal. And to that end, if you wanted to take close watch of that goal, for instance, you could follow it on Chatter. And any time there's any activity on this record, you would get that chat. It would show up in the Chatter feed. There is one thing I forgot to mention about adding a metric. When you click the link metric to report in Salesforce, I've clicked it here, and I'm in the sandbox, so I don't have any reports. But what it will provide you is a view of the recent reports that you've accessed. So it will tie back to a report that you've created. Maybe you've created a report that's just for you, for instance. If you've got like a pipeline report for the whole team, but you've created one for just yourself, you could link it to that report if it's a pipeline goal. I just want to point out that it's important to know that this only brings back the reports that you've recently looked at, you've recently used. Okay. I just have a couple of things I want to share with you before we open up for QA. We've got about 12 minutes left. So, when to use MyWolf? We are introducing MyWolf to the Blue Wolf culture and the use of all of the wonderful features of this tool. And it's not just to put one more thing on your plate. In fact, MyWolf and how we're being asked to use it will actually help you do all of those things even better than before. In our culture today, we already recognize each other. We already provide feedback at some level, and we also review our goals on a regular basis. But now it's all in one place. You can easily track, it integrates with Salesforce, and overall it improves and supports and encourages coaching and professional growth, which we know leads to an extraordinary employee experience. So don't think of this as something that's just one more thing to do. It's actually something that enhances what you already do. So when to use it, okay, so for everyone, we're looking at, from a recognition standpoint, we recommend daily, weekly, monthly, basically whenever it happens. From a feedback standpoint, same thing. We want that immediacy to it so that while it's fresh, you're providing that feedback or that recognition. From a goals perspective, we figure probably weekly or monthly is when you'll want to look back and review your goals. From a manager's perspective, you'll want to use this during one-on-ones and just the wealth of information that comes with each employee. You'll also certainly consider it for team or community calls to see the progress of how the team is progressing toward achieving goals. And of course, you'll use it for mid-year and end-of-year reviews. From a support perspective, there are resources and content. They will be employee training, which starts next week. We'll provide the employee training recording. We'll include the employee training presentation and, of course, tip sheets, which actually I'm going to add tip sheets later today. For managers only, we're going to email you. I'm going to need to email you this presentation and a recording of training. And then from a support perspective overall, we're going to utilize the org support feedback loop box that we find in the top left corner of our org. And if you find a technical issue, like let's say, for instance, you're typing in a name and to provide feedback to offer feedback to, and the name is not coming up automatically for you to select, that would be a technical glitch. And so you would want to click on the report a bug link and submit that technical issue. For anything else related to MyWolf, you'll use the general support link, which comes to the Global Talent Management team, and we will respond to you promptly. So immediate next steps. We're asking that by June 20th, you and your employees request at least one feedback from a PAC team member. Whether it's your immediate team or someone on a project with you, we ask that you request one feedback. And as a result, you will need to provide at least one feedback to a PAC team member. So if everybody's doing this, you will receive a request to provide feedback, and so that should fulfill that. Okay. By June 30th, we're asking everyone to input their EEP goals and objectives into the MyWolf goals. And then by end of day today, this is a strong suggestion to maybe mark some items on your calendar and set some reminders. So set a weekly reminder ongoing for whatever day of the week you want to remind yourself, oh yes, feedback is important, I need to be providing feedback. What's happened this week that's really struck me about maybe something you've done or that you want to request feedback, or something that you've seen happen you want to offer feedback. Also, set a weekly reminder for the month of June for Throwback Thursdays, because in leading up to Phase 2 and the rollout of the performance piece, we want that to be really rich and full of good information about each employee. And so we're encouraging everyone to use Thursday as your throwback day to look back at the past quarter, right, since January, and think through some of the things that have gone down on your projects and things that you've worked on, great moments, maybe some struggling moments, whatever they were, and go back and go into MyWolf and offer recognition about those things, or offer feedback or request feedback about those moments. And then finally, ongoing, I recommend you set a weekly reminder on your calendar for like Badge a Buddy Day. So it's just that visual cue for you to remember to recognize people that you're working with. It's so easy sometimes to just, put your head down and just drudge through all the details of what you're doing. And I know everybody has, deliverables that are needing to be done, but don't forget to stop and recognize people who are doing extraordinary things. So what's next? Okay, the first thing that's coming up is that training I told you about feedback, the how-to piece of it. It is critical for the prep for Phase 2, which is the performance launch. That's where you'll learn about Blue Wolf expectations for you and employees, about how to request, provide, and receive feedback. They will happen the last 2 weeks of June. There will be both manager and employee sessions. We will be emailing links to register, and it's about an hour long, 45 minutes to an hour. After that will come Phase 2. That's performance. It'll launch in Q3. Again, the actions that are happening in Phase 1, like putting your goals in the system, are key to the actions that you'll need to do in Phase 2 for performance. And basically, performance, MyWolf provides, it's just a simple review tool. It's a full, transparent view. We've talked a little bit about that transparency already. And it's for the entire review period. It's not for just the very end. So we have biannual reviews, right, mid-year and end of year. But the review data that's captured is for all year round. So that's why this tool isn't something you just visit twice a year. It's something that you are daily, weekly, monthly at least getting into and using the system. And then Phase 3 will be coaching. That will launch in Q4. And that will be the location for our new mentorship program. And it will capture notes, events, and tasks. And it will synchronize those with feedback very easily. So this is what we've covered, just to recap quickly before we go into some questions and answers here in the last 5 minutes. By now, you should be able to describe what is MyWolf and why we chose it, what's in it for you, and what's in it for your team. Talk about the timing of the 3-phase rollout. You should be able to access and navigate MyWolf for the Phase 1 rollout, which includes those 3 pieces: recognition, feedback, and goals. Explain when to use MyWolf to your employees. Be able to find the resources that you need and the support you need. Be able to complete your immediate next steps in the month of June, which include the June 20th feedback deadline of requesting and providing the Throwback Thursdays feedback for the month of June, and then by June 30th, getting all your EEP goals into MyWolf. And then last but certainly not least, you should be able to explain what's coming up next, which will be feedback training, Phase 2 launch, and Phase 3 launch. So I've talked a lot, and I know there have been just a couple of questions intermittent, but I would like to open it up for questions. Karen, has there been any in chat that you want to call to attention that might have been already asked?
Sure, yep. So there were 2 questions that were asked, and I chatted them out to everybody. One was, are there definitions about what the criteria for each badge is? And I explained that there are taglines for each badge.
Karen, it's
and
Karen. Can you guys hear me, or am I mute?
I can hear you.
Okay. So, I saw that. That was. I'm so glad we've got that information. What I was wondering is there additional criteria? Like, so if someone has, I saw you put out like the execution, with what Carrie did. Clearly, I know Carrie's done a lot of work like that. But are there going to be sort of guidelines on when you would give something in addition to those taglines?
Go ahead.
No.
The reason why I asked is just I might do it differently than someone else, and it was just sort of understanding that.
I think in our culture and the way that we want to promote this is not by enforcing anything at this point.
Okay.
Recognition openly, and you will see which in our organization are badges are free and give it out like it's like it is free, and those that reserve their badges, and that's more of a personal stamp on the way that we provide feedback.
Right. And also, Tara, I would add to the best practices that I mentioned earlier when we were walking through it. Those will be on the tip sheet too, so that will just kind of help clue some people in about best practices.
Okay. Thank you.
I also want to mention. Sure. I forgot to mention this, and I apologize. But we will be sunsetting the Thank You Chatter group because the Thank You badge in MyWolf actually accommodates that exactly. And what's more is an even added value is that it now puts all of the recognition that you receive, not just thanks, but all the other types of recognition in one place. So we'll be sunsetting the Thank You group.
And then the other question was that Eric entered 4 must-dos on Sunday, and should we align to them? And the answer is no, we should align to the Blue Wolf corporate goals as you described so the person that we're going to align to is Blue Wolf corporate, and the 4 must-dos, if your goal aligns directly to that, then just align to those 4 must-dos. And as we start to develop our goals a little bit more, and you have managers and multiple tiers happening, you can align to those as well.
You guys have put so much work into this. It really shows. It looks phenomenal.
Thanks, Tara. Are there any other questions out there? I know I didn't see any more in chatter. Comments?
Just as a reminder to your employees are starting their training next week, so you may start getting questions. And if you need anything, please feel free to click on that general support link, and the Global Talent Management team, we will be happy to help you.
Hey, Jen, this is Jolene. I just wanted to really take a moment and thank you and Karen and the GTM team, as well as the GSD team. I know that Sonar 6 was a big pain point for a lot of individuals, and as we think about our plan on the page and our focus on creating extraordinary employee moments and extraordinary employees, it really starts with our managers. And so thank you so much for giving us as managers a preview to this. And I'll be sure to badge you a thank you as well.
Thanks, Jolene. And thank you guys for joining for the preview of MyWolf. It is live. And we look forward to seeing what your thoughts are in real time.
Thank you.
Everyone have a great day.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.